So without further ado, I'll introduce our first couple of speakers for the morning. So that's going to be a little bit of a tag team. We've got Alan Thomson, the newly appointed CEO of Beef and Lamb New Zealand. I think he's been in the role about 4 months now, Alan. And Alan has a strong background in agritech and fertiliser, as he told me last night. It's been a big part of his background. And then alongside him will be Dan Breyer, who will need no introduction to you people, who is the Beef and Lamb Genetics General Manager. And so Alan's going to give a little bit of an overview of Beef and Lamb, and then Dan's going to talk a bit more specifically about the genetics program. So welcome, Alan.
Kia ora and welcome, and thanks, Warwick. I guess your kids will be able to critique you, given it is recorded. I'd be keen to be involved in that, or to observe that discussion. Look, I just want to spend a couple of minutes of why I'm here, in the role. I was approached to apply for it, and I was living comfortably in Sydney and working comfortably, and I thought, no. And then I thought, I started in agriculture 40 years ago as a Ravensdown field officer, as Warwick touched on. And it was just after SMPs had come on and farmers were making a loss, a substantive loss. And the gentleman just down here said, not much has changed. And that was exactly it. Will, is it? Chris, sorry. That was exactly it. That I thought I didn't want to finish my career kind of where I started, with farmers making a loss. It felt like I hadn't done enough. And so we are, other than the sort of slight increase this year, I think 108,000 before drawings is the average profit of a New Zealand sheep and beef farmer. And so my passion is to try and make the step change we need, given 40 years we've trebled productivity, but still not making an economic return. So I know that's why I'm here. So 4 months into the role, as Warwick said, 3 reasons for attending this conference. One is to reacquaint with Dan's team. It's a team I'm immensely proud of. And in fact, the whole of the Beef and Lamb team, when I joined, within a week, I could see the absolute passion for doing the very best for farmers that they had. And the other thing is, I guess, the depth and the breadth which we cover. So certainly reacquainting with the team was one reason. Obviously, extremely important is to meet our levy payers. You don't get a choice. It's a bit like paying tax. You get a choice once every 5 years whether you're going to be a levy payer or not, collectively. So I'm really keen to hear from each of you what we should keep doing, stop doing, and start doing. And the third reason to be here is the single biggest expenditure item outside our payroll is what we invest into genetics. So it's a very, very key item in what we do collectively with your levy payments. So I'm very keen to get your feedback on that. And I guess my early sense is from discussions last night, first thing this morning, you seem pretty happy, but I don't want to jinx it by saying that. We'll see by the end of the day. In terms of the Beef and Lamb strategy, it was reset by the board in 24, so my job is to execute that. And key to that is the objective of thriving sheep and beef farmers. And I mean, it's interesting, the government's come out with a doubling export receipts, and my focus with the team is not so much doubling export receipts, but how we substantively increase farm profitability, as I touched on. But we've broken that down into championing farming excellence, which is really what this would come under in terms of, genetics to me, and you will know this much better than I, is the core to increasing productivity in a way that doesn't cost you a great deal of money. So the cumulative effect of genetic gain in terms of productivity is crucial. Advocacy is a big part of what we do, and I'm really keen to get your view on that. I think the entity suffered a bit of PTSD after the previous government, that we sort of stepped back from our leadership role, fearful that we might get it wrong again. But in fact, in my 4 months of talking to farmers, I've said we expect you to lead, we expect you to point to what is the right thing to do environmentally, what are the wrong things to do, and to make sure that we all do that well. But we also want you to lead on climate change with the government, on E. coli or sediment or vocational training, those things within agriculture. So keen to get your one-on-one views on that. And then the other key part of the strategy is around our on-farm extension. And already some of you have mentioned the value that you get from farmers talking and learning from farmers. And certainly, after 40 years in this industry, I do think that's such an important part of it. But our job is simply to facilitate and give you the knowledge, help feed in the knowledge to do that. So that strategy is pretty key, and you'll see that's our single biggest cost, this team. And so we've got some work to do in that. We've made quite a change in how we deliver our extension, and it's a work in progress, but we will get there very shortly. I don't want to talk too much about this because this is really what Dan's going to cover, and he knows it just so much better than I do. But research, we've probably invested $200 to $300 million of your levy over the last 40 years in research. So there's one thing to have the knowledge, and it's helped, along with farmers, driving that trebling of productivity. But if we've got, as I said, the biggest cost is our extension team, guys and girls on field, we've got to find ways of getting that knowledge into your hands more quickly, cheaply, and immediately. And so there's out of the annual report, for those of you who maybe suffer from insomnia and wanted to read an annual report at 2 a.m. in the morning, I'd recommend it. I mean that lovingly, and I think, but annual reports are a dry argument these days. But I mean, that just shows you where your levy is going. And so that's the areas that I really want your feedback on. This random looking slide here is to the point of trying to get information to you more quickly and appropriately. So this is, the background to this is one of Dan's team, Aaron Meikle, has created a chatbot, nothing particularly new or revolutionary with chatbots, but it is directed just to that $300 million we've invested in research for you. So if you went online and looked for Osteotargia, you'd get 703 hits, and if you went through that, you'd get, on average, 8 pages per click. And I tell you, it's a dry argument. That's an even better way to get to sleep than reading our annual report. If you then, though, went onto our Knowledge Hub, which is a very good first effort at coalescing the knowledge, you'd also get a lot of information. But if you go to the chatbot, then you're going to get just that in terms of the first tranche. And your ability then is to ask a supplementary question and just get that, knowing it's not from some Norwegian fringe farmer that's put something on the internet, knowing that it's our data and your ability to drill down into it really quickly. So that's I'd commend you in the future to avail yourself of that. That's getting the investment you've already made in your hands, in the paddock. You're standing there with your non-Nokia smartphone doing that. So, as I said, genetics is super important. 50% of the improvement in productivity in the New Zealand sheep industry from 1990 has come from genetics. To quote Dan, it's the only free lunch where commercial farmers don't need to do anything, just make a slightly better decision in which ram or bull that they purchase. I said it's a very much a cumulative thing, as you know well. And I like this piece that you get probably in a farmer's career, 30 or 40 chances to make this decision. So Beef and Lamb New Zealand is very excited to launch Improve at this forum, for beef at this forum. It's a key plank in improving the decision making for commercial farmers. What's important to me is I get the very, very strong sense that it was hugely collaborative. So many farmers have made a significant, and suppliers to us have made a significant contribution to delivering improve. And so I know, Dan, you're going to talk more about that. So it was developed with significant input from farmers since the get-go, and that stays true to our mission of by farmers for farmers. So thank you very much. I look forward to talking to each and every one of you over the next 8 or 10 hours and getting your feedback. Thank you.